Well, Sonny, I don't know whether or not I should tell you the way it really is, because sometimes when you find out how it really is, you don't want to face the fact, and you wind up by sitting around in the corner scratching and eating ice cream. Which isn't bad, actually. For example, we have here tonight a prime exhibit. It isn't only people that are hung. Oh, no, I think most everything is hung if you get close enough to it. What was the thing I once read about the clouds forming special symbols one time over Oak Street Beach in Chicago? Now, I read this in, I believe it was Philip Wiley wrote a book about that. Now, well, no, Mr. Wiley didn't create that. As a matter of fact, the clouds do form special symbols over the Oak Street Beach. I have many occasion just laid out there, flat out, on the Oak Street Beach in Chicago. You have to know about that beach. That's why he picked it. And it just makes those letters up there. Well, we have a note here about a turtle, a pet turtle from Ponca City, Oklahoma. The Associated Press reports. A pet turtle painted a distinctive color and bearing the enigmatic slogan, "Souvenir of Omaha, Nebraska," then the property of the W.H. Nelson family, was abandoned 10 miles from home after it began eating vegetables in the home garden. 3 days later, it was back in the yard, eating vegetables and bearing the enigmatic slogan, "Souvenir of Omaha, Nebraska." Well, do you realize how far 10 miles is to a turtle? I mean, that's about 500,000 miles to a turtle. I'll never forget. Did any of you see this cartoon, or did I create this cartoon in my mind? It's very difficult after a certain point to know whether or not you created something or whether it really was, you know? You wonder. Well, there was this great cartoon that showed a turtle. And it's sprawled all out there, you know, just laying there on the ground. You know how turtles are, just laying there turtling. And on top of this turtle, on his shell, there were 2 snails. It's just sitting there, you see. They were on top of the shell. And one snail says to the other, "Now hang on. Here we go." Did I create that? No, I don't think I did. I think somebody else created that somewhere along the line. Because, you know, there's a beautiful, almost a classical embodiment of the entire problem of relativity. I mean, really, this is not an uncomplicated cartoon. Now, hang on. Here we go. Chic, therapy. Oh, your love belongs to me. At night when you're asleep, into your tent I'll creep the stars that shine above. We'll light our way to love. You'll rule this land with me. I'm the chic of All right, hang on. Here we go. Well, of course, again, the problem of relativity. We have it on all sides, everywhere you turn, everywhere you flip-flop, it's everywhere. It's like the other day, I'm watching this play, and it's about a problem. See, all plays are. This is the whole point of a play. You know, you got to have conflict. You know, I suspect that one of the reasons why many people are hung on going to plays and reading books and so on. Has it ever occurred to you that the reason they're hung is that they don't have any conflict in their lives? Every single last play, every single last drama, every novel, it has to be. That's what a novel is. That's what a play is. In fact, even a poem involves conflict, forces opposed to one another. Well, you assume as you're sitting there on your thing watching a play that, the conflict reflects the conflict in people's lives. But I'm curious about that. I really am. I wonder how many people, like the other night I was talking to a guy, and we got halfway through our discussion, and he says, well, of course, there's the atom bomb. You gotta remember the nuclear bomb there. And I wonder whether people who talk about the atom bomb or the nuclear bomb, whether they don't talk about it in much the same way, the same rote sort of way, and that's R-O-T-E, as they talk about the weather, for example. When somebody talks about the weather, is he really talking about the weather? No, seriously, is a guy really talking, hey, Charlie, boy, it sure is hot out, ain't Charlie? Well, of course, Charlie, everybody knows it's hot, and the guy is talking, is he talking about the weather, or is he making ritualistic sounds to say, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here? But he doesn't want to say any more than that, you see. He says, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And the other guy, Charlie, when he answers, yes, sir, sure, hot enough for you, isn't it, Fred? He is saying, I am here also. We are both here. We are alive. We have made it. We have made it all the way up till 3 p.m. on Wednesday. We are still here, both of us, for crying out loud. Never would have thought it. And then the elevator goes up to 24, and Charlie's getting off the elevator. And he says, well, Charlie, hope it cools off a little bit, right? Tomorrow? Hope it cools off a little bit. And he says, I don't know. I kind of like hot weather. Well, what they're saying then is, whew, boy, well, I hope you make it to another day, Fred. I hope I see you tomorrow at 3, and I hope. And he is saying, oh, boy, me too, man. We might not do it. And I'm curious. You see, that's what's called ritualistic conversation. It has nothing to do with what you're talking about. Do people really worry about the atom bomb, or do they just say they worry about the? It's the greatest conversational piece of the age. It's like a gigantic thing, that somebody's got in the middle of the coffee table of life. It's a conversation piece. But is anybody really involved? I don't know. Curious. And what's so intriguing is how many people are involved in atom bombs who have no concept of any kind of a bomb. They've never seen any bomb. And yet, it's a big thing. So we have this thing going on in our life. It's a very interesting thing. Like the other day, you can see little bits and pieces all over in the newspaper of examples of this thing of, well, what is it, It's the little thing like reality and rituals and things going up and down, and you wonder where they stop. One of the good things about the newspapers coming back is that once again you will become acutely aware of the nuttiness of it all. Up to this time, no, that's the truth. Up to this, for the last 4 months, you just sort of fooled around. You scratched, and once in a while you'd look at the TV news. They don't have enough time on the radio news, Ed, or on TV news to give you the real news. It's all taken up with, stuff like tax hikes and tax decreases and fare increases and liquor license problems, whether or not they're going to have a big fist fight in Algeria. It's all taken up with trivia, and the real news, it just completely goes out the window. Here's a little piece here that crept in from one of the out-of-town newspapers. You'll be seeing this kind of stuff again, so it's all right. Here, for example, it tells about, now, one of the sacrosanct areas, this will make a great TV show, this little item here, by the way, for Naked City. Do they ever call it that out here? That's a real Indiana term, naked. Stark jaybird naked. They never said naked, they're naked. And they also said things like et. Have you et? Yeah, I et. What'd you have? Hot dogs. Fish. Well, that's real southern Indiana talk there. They never said Naked City. Well, they do out in Monon, Indiana when they talk about that show, I'm sure. They see Naked City. Naked City is the way it's pronounced. Well, this would make a great Naked City plot. Do you have sinister tribal music for me there? George, that's great tribal music because we're all part of a tribe. There's no question about it. And one of our tribal mores is that mother can do no wrong. And on the other hand, among the little sub-tribe, which we call playwrights, their tribal mores say that mother can do no right and is secretly a shark in the sky. So you wonder which side of the population is right. Of course, the trick is neither one. Mother is just a skinny lady with a mustache. And a secret sorrow and a secret joy. Mrs. Mary Meller of Beaumont Avenue near 57th Street in Philadelphia, accused of having 4 children, including 2 of her own, steal from stores, was held Thursday in $500 bail in the grand jury. She was charged with larceny, receiving stolen goods, and contributing to delinquency of minors. The detectives said that testified that the children said they were driven to shoplift at stores in West Philadelphia and Frankfurt under the instructions of Mrs. Meller and stole clothing and food. They did it hundreds and hundreds of times over. Calix said if Mrs. Meller is found guilty, he hoped she would be jailed because he felt she was a detrimental influence to young children and a menace to society. Mrs. Meller said, I don't know why I did it, actually. Well, now there you are. You know, this is not that I'm anti-mother or pro-mother, but it's very difficult to put that alongside those lace things that we send back and forth for Mother's Day. It reminds me of that bank robber they caught the other day with the Bible in his bag. Now, he's very difficult to put together with Sunday school and all the rest of it, with all that loot. And, with that funny thing he carried to hit people over the head with. But he said he was doing it for a good cause. I mean, what are you going to do, one way or the other? Speaking of tribal rituals. Oh, yes, that reminds me. Speaking of the tribe, this is WORAM in FMsville, New York. And we're here in the... Do you know anything about the potlatch? Do any of you know the potlatch heritage of the Indians of the Northwest? Potlatch. Oh, what do you mean you don't know what the potlatch is? We live in that whole society. We've absorbed it. What do you mean? What is it, a potlatch? Well, the potlatch, let's put it on this basis. It is a kind of a party. And here's what the potlatch does. Now, you wanted to know, listen now, don't start right. Now, I'll tell you what potlatch is. You just listen. The Northwestern Indians, when the first explorers went out there, found that these guys lived in long huts. They lived in great big ranch-type houses. They didn't live in teepees. They lived literally in long houses. They were like ranch houses of our day. Big, long houses with a kind of picture window, actually, in them. And they were made out of wood of one kind or another, and they were very tastefully decorated, just as the ranch houses of our day are decorated. Now, the Indians practiced a kind of communal life, just the way the people in our suburbs do. A kind of communal life. Now, communal does not mean communism, so don't bridle. Anybody out there saying, I'm not a communist? Well, you're living communal life. That's what's known as community life. With everybody together, rubbing elbows and other things together. That's communal life. And everybody going in one big crowd down to the PTA, and everybody going out to the Little League, and everybody going to the same drugstore, and buying the same cars, and watching the same television show. That's about as communal as you can get. And in fact, I understand there are some games they play out there in those little societies out there in Connecticut and Jersey that would make guys along Bleecker Street get teed off. That's always intriguing to me, that many guys I know who are bohemian types, or really hip bohemian types, who are always talking about the conformity of guys who live in the suburbs, they really get teed off when the guys in the suburbs swing like 50 times more than they themselves ever get away with swinging. I remember one guy the other day, I'm sitting in this coffee shop, and one of my real swinging village friends is sitting there, and of course, it was unfair because I caught him off base there, but we're sitting down there in this coffee shop, and we've just had our espresso, and this guy, I know for a fact, in the last 6 months, has made the scene with like 45 different chicks. Now, so here he is, he doesn't remember a girl say more than 5 minutes. In fact, I know for over a year, he hasn't even found out the last name of any one girl he's ever known. Seriously. And they're all named Susie. Or Sylvia. All kinds of names like that. Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of... This Marie says. I said, oh, Marie. What happened? Susie. Which Susie? Well, oh, yes. So, and it goes on. Well, we're sitting there having our espresso. This is a real swinger type. You know, the kind that hollers folk songs. Oh, Sheila, coming around a mountain. Ding, 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 ding. All night long, you know. And this is this guy, you see. So we're sitting there in the espresso shop. We've knocked down about 3 cappuccinos. And of course he was getting mellow, and when a hippie gets mellow, that means his anger, his ire is rising. That means that he's really beginning to feel the evening. Well, he's crying out loud. We're talking about Darien. And he says, sure, did you hear what happened to Darien? For crying out loud, they had a key party there. I says, what's a key party? Oh, all these guys, they throw the key in the middle of the floor. And the next thing you know, they're going home with each other's chicks. This guy's been doing this like since he was 9. But he was mad because they're doing it in spades in Darien, you see. And it really bugged him because he had always prided himself that only he knew and his friends about the free life. What was free to them becomes immoral when other guys do it. You know, it's a very interesting problem. It really is a fascinating problem. And so the other day, one of my very, very conforming friends, this guy works here at the station, see, and now he's the other side of the fence. He lives in Darien. Now he's what my friend would call, you know, he's like he's unhip, you know, real unhip. He's the other side. No, I can't use the word square. Yeah, he's a straight arrow, but a little more than that. He's like an aggressive enemy, you know, because he works in the radio station, the ad agency, the whole bit. See, well, here's this guy, see, and he has come back. It is now 4 o'clock, Ed. He has just come back from his lunch hour, which started at 11:30. He has inhaled 17 martinis en route. And so he's sitting there and he says, hey, Shepherd. I says, what? What is it, Charlie? He says, you seen them beatnik friends of yours? I said, what do you mean, beatnik friends? I got friends, they sit around and beatnik friends. What do you mean? Because the guy's got a beard, he's a beatnik? Beatnik friends. When are them guys ever going to get a job? This clown has been sitting on his you-know-what, raking in the jack for like 9 years and hasn't lifted a finger since he was 9. When are they going to get a job? Those guys, anytime you tell them to work, for crying out loud, beatniks. Well, just about that time, the phone rings and it's the traffic department. They are on the phone wanting to know why he didn't turn in his report for a commercial, which they missed. Because all he had to do was to fill out the thing, you know, and turn it in so the commercial would go on. He said, well, I didn't have time. What am I going to do? I don't have time. And he hangs up. I'll take care of it. And he hangs up, puts his feet on the desk, and he says, yeah, you're a beatnik friend, Shepherd. They're all sitting around, down bums, sitting around doing nothing. And you know, it's wild. What one guy does, I'm beginning to see that what the enemy does is always interpreted as rotten. If you do it, it's interpreted as a natural action. So if a guy in Russia gives a speech, it's called propaganda. If a guy here gives a speech, it's called informing the public. And vice versa, you know. No guy in Russia would ever call what he gives propaganda. It works all the way around. So don't immediately jump up, that's a chipper, get a rotten government, America rotten. No, Dad, I've been too far around the world. I find that this works everywhere. You ought to see a simple native of the Middle East give you the double talk. A beautiful native that plays what is the instrument? The bouzouki or the baluchi? Sits there playing the baluchi and the bajuki, hollering and yelling and eating fish, and at the same time giving you the fast shuffle. Just like some guy who's doing the same thing in a village coffee shop, you know, or some guy in Darien is doing the same thing. He's playing a record of a bajuki or a baluchi or a whoopee or a oud. And he's doing the same thing, you know. The world is a gigantic fast shuffle, but it's very hard to detect it because you see, it's difficult to detect your own sleight of hand work. Your own sleight of hand work is merely, well, the guy's got to get along, you know. What are you talking about? You put me on? Well, you see, your own sleight of hand work is a necessity. The other guy's sleight of hand work is just sheer rottenness, absolute rottenness. it goes round and round. And I'm always intrigued by this because this friend, of course, this friend of mine says, this guy was putting down a mutual friend of ours, see, this cat, for crying out loud. That guy's been married 4 times. I says, but, here I have to use a fictitious name, but Max. What do you mean, Max? At least he marries them. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's rotten. I said, but Max. It's a fascinating problem. So on the other, I just wonder where it stops. It's intriguing. It's for example, we are very health conscious people in America. Let me tell you, if they discover, for example, that green skins on apricots have a tendency to cause bloodshot eyeballs, you would find no apricots eaten for the next 6 months in America completely. They would cut it out. Absolutely. Do you remember the big cranberry scare? Everybody laid off cranberries immediately. On a very, very meager rumor, just a little rumor that flew through the air. And yet, like for 94 years, doctors have been talking, a lot of good ones have been talking about what causes cancer. So everybody's, what do you mean they haven't proved it? He's got 7 of them going out of his ears, out of his mouth, out of his, he's smoking 9 of them at once. And the doctors keep saying this, they haven't proved that the bombs, what are you trying to do? The big lobby at the AMA, you can't trust them. And some little fat lady with a squeaking corset, all she has to do is suggest that if you eat too many currants, you're going to have trouble with falling hair. There would be a drop in the currant market that would knock the bee out of it all. We are fascinating double talk people. Like for example, I hear all these humane people now. The humane people would get really mad if you were to take one dog and make if you take 2 dogs and throw them into a ring and have them fight. And I don't hear any of them yelling about boxing. Not the real humane people. No, for some reason or other, I have found many humane people, when they call humane, a person by some strange freak of semantics, a humane person is a person who's not interested in humans, but white mice or Pekingese things. Whereas actually the word humane means, has to do with a person who is deeply interested in humanity, humane. But nevertheless, I have found many wildly humane people are hung on boxing, which is an intriguing problem. I don't know. Maybe it says a lot more about them than they want to have said. But on the other hand, like the other day, little intriguing thing. One of the great state officials here in New York, when asked about are they going to outlaw boxing, he says, they don't want to outlaw cars. All the cars, kill people every year. They don't want to outlaw cars. To parallel a transportation system with a sport is one of the most fantastic examples of flip-flop sophistry I've heard since Miss Shields came out with that remarkable statement about Raggedy Ann, which I never bought, even then. And I'm not going to tell you what it was. I don't want to embarrass you here at this hour. But it's this kind of thing. In short, what you are prepared to get mad about, you will get mad about. What you don't want to get mad about, forget it. Forget it. And another one too. Another one. Funny thing about this same friend. This is typical of the fascinating problems of calling another man's shortcomings, really calling them out loudly and pointing them out as a terrible example of character defect, and then overlooking the same thing in yourself, or making it, if you can, a character asset. The same thing. Interesting. Like the other day, I'm sitting there with my friend, see, and he's got the baluchi going, or the oud, or the banjo, or whatever it is. And I said, he said, for crying out loud, them guys in the suburbs, what are you, slobs. Nothing but slobs. They don't read, they don't know nothing, not slob, read, watch television. This guy had just come from 17 straight marathon hours watching every known Western on his television set in his pad. That's the truth. And then I said to him, well, what do you mean? You've just been watching the Westerns all the time, and I haven't seen you read a book in 34 years. He said, I don't have time. I don't have one group of people, and it is never measured by where you live. Never. Absolutely not. I'm curious because I've sat in on many for example, a comic session. I sat in one night down the road. The guy's a comic, see. Well, his act consisted mostly of telling people how rotten a lot of other people were. Other guys. There was certainly nobody in the room, of course, excepting everybody in this crowd. You know how they are out there, the rotten ones. What we ought to have is more love. 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 Rotten people out there. Rotten. and it's just, of course, this is known, it's a very old thing in politics, but it is an extraordinary thing. Not really extraordinary, I suppose the most normal thing when it's in real life. Speaking of real life, we have with us tonight, Mandarin House, and I would by all means like to recommend, if you have never tried Mandarin food, it's sneaky. Here's an example of the kind of thing that I'm talking about. In really dynamic action. Does anyone have any dynamic Gothic music for me in here? There. See, there's no other business like the ad business, and I just take this as one business. I guess no matter what people do, they somehow have to rationalize it to make it seem, if they can, to be the best thing that people do. In short, if you're a pickpocket, you got to rationalize it, I guess, when you're sitting in the quietness of your night, that the reason you're a pickpocket is because you know the truth about people and they're rotten. The guy's got to fight to live in this world. I'm the only honest one on the block. And, of course, he's a pickpocket. I have had people say that. They will say to me, the most honest guy is a murderer because he killed somebody, or the most honest guy is a guy who steals from you because he's really doing it. Fascinating. But nevertheless, I guess people have to do this. You have to do it, I suppose, in a way to protect yourself. And the new way of protecting yourself, of course, is to destroy others. It's really not new, but there are new techniques. There are several ways of protecting yourself, and one of the best ways of protecting yourself, of course, is to develop a gigantic structure of philosophical props that can hold you up. Now, even if the props are all made out of balsa, and they have little rubber pieces in them, and they have a tendency to fall apart when the wind gets over 2.5 miles an hour, at least it's a prop. And the other day, and I'm giving you this because I'll have to change, a lot of things here, but this was reprinted in one of the great advertising magazines, and the other day, there was a big advertising meeting in one of the great big cities of America, of all the ad men all got together, and the ad men probably next to the movie world, next to the theater world, are prone to pat themselves on the back. I don't know anybody who is more hung on himself, and I'm talking about his business, everything about it, than the theater people. And they make it tangible by handing each other awards constantly. I mean, there must be 5,000 awards given in the movie world every year. There must be 25,000 given overseas in the movie world. There must be at least 1,000 given in the legitimate theater for all kinds, like the best pregnant pause of the year. The best sinister smile of the year. Beautiful sinister smile that came in the last act. There is even now an award for the worst play of the year. And it's given seriously because they say that anybody who can get such a bad play on is some kind of talent. So he gets an award. Well, the ad people are constantly giving each other things like the Golden Shillelagh Award for the best advertising slogan that sucked more people into the maelstrom than anything else done last year. The best one. Well, of course, there is always a little secret feeling that you're cheating, just like actors. They always have a secret feeling that they're putting it over on people. Because a lot of actors know they get by on high cheekbones. And they get by because they got a friendly smile. So if you can get a plaque that says you're official, somehow then you begin to believe it. You begin to feel it. And so the other day, in a great city in America, a large number of advertising executives gathered to bestow upon one another the golden, silver, platinum, and radium awards of the year for great achievement in the world of dynamic sails. And before the meeting got underway, a well-known prelate stepped to the lectern and blessed the advertising men to wit. Almighty and everlasting God, we pray that you will bestow your divine blessings on this group of men and women who devote themselves to the task of guiding and molding the opinion of our fellow Americans. They selflessly point out the means of living a more abundant life in the midst of the plenty with which you have blessed our beloved country. Yea, verily, their work in its own way resembles thy work in the days of creation. The earth was void and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved over the waters. In the rocks he cut out rivers, and his eyes hath seen every precious thing. The depths also of rivers he hath searched, and hidden things he hath brought forth to light. He struck the rock, and the waters gushed out, and the streams overflowed. Oh, the depths of the riches of the wisdom of the knowledge of God! How incomprehensible are his judgments, and how unresearchable his ways! Yes, their work in its own way resembles thy work in the days of creation. May these thy servants be guided by thy eternal principles, so that in their deliberation and work they may delineate only the good, the true, the beautiful. Amen. Have you ever had have you ever really looked inside of yourself at the things that you really would like to be instead of the rotten thing that you are? I mean, admit it now. Wouldn't you like to be an airline pilot? Honestly, wouldn't it be great? Seriously, don't put it down now, Pfeiffer. Wouldn't you like to be an airline pilot behind the wheel of a 707? Now, and as much as you put it down, wouldn't it be great to be an astronaut? Admit it now, seriously. About to be sent to the moon or someplace? I mean, what a fantastic adventure. Wouldn't you like to be, let's say, Richard Burton? No, I don't. I mean, just be a fantastic movie star. You know, everybody cheering and hollering and guys clinging to you. Wouldn't you like to be Kennedy? Wouldn't you? You know, seriously. Well, I don't know. I'd like to be all of these things. What do you mean, what would I want to be? I'd like to be all of these things. Just, you know, wouldn't you admit it now, Ed? Would not you like to have them say, opening day, and batting fourth in the lineup, playing center field, number 7, Ed Zajac. And batting number 5 in the order, playing second base, Bobby Richardson. I'll admit it now. Come on. And everybody, of course, puts it down immediately. I guess, again, this is another form of double talk. Every time we put something down, almost invariably, it's because it bugs us that we never could hit a slider. Or we had bad eyes. You know, we secretly know that no one would ever pick us to be sent to the moon, ever, under any conditions, you know? Wouldn't you? I can think of about 15 things that just offhand, that I would like to be. For example, I'd like to be mayor of New York. Admit it, I'd like to be the guy they all say as you ride around in the cabs, if that bum in the city hall, if that son of a gun ever got off his thing, well, for crying out loud, they could fix this traffic situation up. The graft these guys got their hands. Wouldn't it be great to be one of those guys with your hands in the till? Or at least that they say your hands are in the till seriously. Instead of always being the guy that just sits and, wouldn't you like to be Jack Parr? Admit it. I mean, it's there. You can't escape it. It's there all the time. Each one of us in our own way puts down the very thing that we secretly know we can never be. Ever, 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 ever. Kennedy wants to be president. I don't president. Not me. I would rather write a better poem than to be the president of these United States. That's what I'd rather do. I would rather write one good line of prose than to be the Prime Minister of England, all England. That's what I'd rather be. And I would rather think one beautiful thought, just one beautiful thought, and make one beautiful statement about my fellow man than to be an astronaut about to be sent to Mars. Oh, yes.
This is WOR Radio, your station for news.